Hey there! Roughly 1 month from now, Yakuza Kiwami 3 and Dark Ties release worldwide. And since we've gotten some pretty substantial news, but no public demo as of yet, I figured I'd compile everything you might want to know before deciding on your purchase. On top of some trailers, these two games also had playable demos at Tokyo Game Show. Plus, we recently got more footage from a press event showing the game in further detail. For this video, I've gone through the trouble of sifting through hours of whatever footage I could find online. And I need to emphasize, none of this footage is my own, and here is a list of everyone whose footage I've used, as well as a link to every single video in the description. And a little toast will appear in the bottom right, like this one, for whatever footage is on screen. Also, a quick disclaimer, this video was originally like 20 minutes long and was meant to release in September. Also, for this video, I won't be going over the new added cutscenes just to avoid spoilers, but the demo story seems like fair game. With that said, let's get straight into the juicy details, starting with the actual events of the Kiwami 3 demo's story. It's not exactly a story, but you know, the demo scenario. The story opens on the eviction notice cutscene with Yangya once again fulfilling the role of Kiryu.
I'll go see what's up. I don't care what these letters say. Nobody's kicking us out of here. Not if I can help it.
Honestly, at this point, I'm rooting for him. Anyway, in her first major appearance, we hear Xanthe Huynh as Haruka, which I am so excited to see.
They haven't stopped. I guess we might really have to leave after all. Those guys have been coming around a lot more often too.
Anyway, the following scene is Kiryu searching for the Ryudo boys and finding them in the usual spot. But if you've played the original game, you'll notice there are some differences. In Yakuza 3, Kiryu walks up the sidewalk to find Rikia and Mikio eating bright blue ice cream bars. But in Kiwami 3's demo, we notice a major lack of frozen treats. What happened to the whimsy and wonder of 20-something-year-old men talking over some chilled treats? Well, I have to make something very clear here and now before I list all the new stuff. This is a demo, so none of the events in this little story snippet are guaranteed to make the final product. And these are most likely altered versions of the actual scenes, shortened to make a faster demo experience, and also leaving the real story to be enjoyed with the full release. How do I know this? There are two major things. First, this is nothing new for these games. In fact, this is literally what they did for both of Infinite Wealth's demos with both the Reynolds and Yamai fights respectively. Second, this scene only includes the second half of the cutscene, and that is easily proven by looking at the pavement in a few shots where you can clearly see two blue blobs on the ground. Meaning that for the demo, they created an alternate version of this scene, removing the ice cream moment, but in the cutscene you can still see the ice cream existed. They cut out the first part of the real cutscene for the demo. Hey, Future Weaver here. Just wanted to add that we've gotten footage of the real cutscene, and wouldn't you know, it's exactly what I said. Anyway, you start the fight with Rikia. For some reason, Mikio watches with absolutely zero emotion. Chilling, honestly. And after beating him, it jump cuts to in front of the shopping area where the game tells you, hey, go explore and stuff, then come see Rikia when you're ready to finish the story. Then, when you go with Rikia, some townspeople run to you telling you that the Tamashiro family is causing trouble in the public market. And you arrive to find the lower floor completely vacant and stalls left in ruin. You have a little moment with Rikia before running to the upstairs portion to find Tamashiro grunts in the middle of beating up a resident, and you work with Rikia to stop them. During the fight itself, we get a sick remix of Pure Malice, and once everything's taken care of, you help the old man, have a cute little moment with Rikia growing to like Kiryu more, and boom, the story ends just before he can take you to the family office. Assuming these demo scenes around the Tamashiro family fight are included in the actual game, I'd be pleasantly surprised. These moments serve both Kiryu and Rikia as characters, and also acquaint us with the Tamashiro family way earlier than in the original, and in a much more interesting scenario. Although I do love the original walk through the shopping district with Rikia, I think this version of the scene still gets the point across, but in a different way. Obviously, I'd prefer if some of the original walk with Rikia still exists, but it's not the end if this is a full-on replacement. Anyway, that's the entire story. Just two fights. Now to get into the main topic, Okinawa. First, the map itself. You can see in footage that the map of Okinawa has been reduced in size. Formerly, Hatsumachi included the entire upper left square of the map, including the many clubs, the Tamashiro office, and Kamiyama's van. Now, the Hatsumachi area is the upper left corner, and it's all been absorbed downwards. There are a few reasons I don't like this change. One, it makes me feel even more claustrophobic than before. With losing a large street, the map almost feels asphyxiating. I think more unfortunate is that there's only one building in this area, and judging from footage, it's the old mahjong place from the original Yakuza 3, which means, without a doubt, something from Yakuza 3 has been cut. It could be Flawless, the Hostess Club, or South Island, the Hostess Maker Club, or even more likely, both are gone. Another issue with shortening the map is that this game brings back the Street Surfer, now called the Street Surfer Mark Zero. For those of you shocked that they put a segue in a game taking place in 2009, I'd recommend doing the tiniest bit of research, because I'll be damned if you disrespect the GOAT like that again. Anyway, it now sounds older and less advanced for some reason, even though segues were perfectly functional in 2009. Again, Kiryu's just riding around on an improvised explosive device for no reason. Anyway, for the Tokyo Game Show participants, they gave out a map with some shops and activities, but not everything was labeled. So I did my best to patch together everything I could. Looking at the shops around the city, there's a weird mix of old and new. First, the M store, formerly in that upper left area, has been moved down and also transformed into a Popo store. The M store in the bottom right has also been turned into a Popo store for some reason. Continuing down North Kubochi Road, we then have Karaoke-Con, then Aqua Sky returning with darts and billiards. Then at the very top of the map, we have what seems to be the home base inside the city called Chura Bar. The bar's second floor houses the dojo used for Ryukyu style, but I'll save that for the combat section. Going down Ryukyu Central, we have the return of Ebisu Pond as well as Umachi, but also a new restaurant, Okinawan Steakhouse. What's weird about this is that just south along Ryukyu Boulevard, we have, I think, another Okinawan Steakhouse. Filling out the west side, we then have an ice cream shop named Hibiscus, which I'll get back to in a bit, and then we have Chinese Cabbage Hall Prickle, whatever that means, as well as the photo booth. I should also note that the little back alley in this corner leading north still exists, it's just blocked off during the demo, again, probably for a streamlined experience. Across the street, we have a lady who talks about the new La 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 mobile system, then the boutique. Further down the street, we have the Smile Burger, the previously mentioned Popo store, and a brand new addition, a golf center. This golf center may end up taking the role of the actual golf course, which, if so, is a little unfortunate, because I think Yakuza 3 and 4 were the only games to feature actual golf courses, and I think they were a neat idea, even if the golf gameplay was bad at the time. Focusing back on the main street for one second, there were actually a few shops not present in the demo that we've only just seen footage of. Most importantly, there's a clothing shop right next to Smile Burger called Goin' My Way, and this particular store sells the classic Yakuza 3 shirt. That's right, the original shirt is in the game and can be bought from this shop most likely immediately. Anyway, moving down into the shopping area, we have a juice vendor, then the returning pharmacy, and Okinawan soba stall. Also seeing a small change is the alleyways have been reduced to now be a single path instead of the many before. And reaching the end of the road, we couldn't actually enter the area in front of the Ryudo office, but we can see that the apartment block with Kamiyama's workshop still exists, but unfortunately the workshop isn't marked on the map. I'm holding out hope that this is because we have yet to meet Kamiyama at this point in the story and he's still chilling upstairs. If you want to hear my entire thing about Kamiyama in this game, go watch the Kiwami 3 video I did before the game got announced, but regardless, fingers crossed. Finally, at the very bottom of the map, we have the public market. Walking inside, we see a very different design from prior, with much wider footpaths so we don't get those ridiculous roadblocks anymore. Downstairs, there looks to be 2 new shops, plus upstairs we have a new restaurant. But also, the seating area was reduced to make room for a new arcade area, which is actually a change that makes a lot of sense. In the original Yakuza 3, it always confused me that this street was called Karyushi Arcade, and there was no arcade to speak of in Ryukyu, until I realized I am a moron. You see, this shopping area, the one with the arced roof, is called a shopping arcade, and that's a term that I've never heard until researching for this video. Anyway, this added arcade game area now makes the name work in an even broader sense, with cabinets for Virtua Fighter 2, Fighting Vipers, a photo booth, and UFO catchers. And with that, we have gone over every single map change. Except I lied again. You may have noticed one small addition in the very bottom right of the map, and I really do think this is going to be a new accessible part of the final game's map. Looking at it from the arcade area, we can see one of those construction walls they've used in the past, maybe blocking off that area until a certain point in the story. More interestingly, going back to the fight with Rikia, you can actually see into the long corridor leading back there behind the crowd. This little hidden area could be used to hide maybe Kamiyama, or it could also be the new location for the gambling den, since before, it was not very hidden. Whatever could be in this corner, I don't know, but it is a fact that it's there. Hey, Future Libra here again. You're not gonna fucking believe what I'm gonna say next. I was right. At least something is there. I don't know what it is, but there are two leisure icons, most likely the gambling area and some other type of game, maybe shogi or something. And before you ask, no, I am not cutting these speculation segments where I theory craft on stuff that already got revealed. I'm sifting through random footage like a psychopath, and then they just announce new shit before I can upload this video, and I need to get this out before they announce even more. With the map out of the way, let's get into the core gameplay, the combat. This game features Kiryu with two fighting styles. The classic Dragon of Dojima style, plus the brand new weapon-centric Ryukyu style. As for Dragon style, it's been a while since we saw it get any changes other than frame data and balance fixes between games, but this version of the Dragon style seems to be a dramatic departure from the most recent games, as it seeks to combine the current Dragon Engine fighting style with the classic pre-Dragon Engine style. Firstly, massive shout out to Hidden Pop 1023 who made this moveset into a mod for Like a Dragon Gaiden, meaning I can explain this way easier. Also, I'm gonna refer to Dragon Engine moves as modern and pre-Dragon Engine as classic. But in total, the first three light attacks are modern, while the fourth is the classic kick. But now, and this is speculation, there seems to be a brand new fifth light attack in the rush combo. The fourth attack is the right kick, and the fifth is a left kick. This is pretty much confirmed to be a new rush combo attack because it actually appears in the upgrade menu during a few trailer shots. And Kiryu can be seen doing heavy finishers directly afterward, which look to be brand new as well. After the new left kick, Kiryu does a backwards high kick down, followed by a hilarious flying kick. As for the rest of the heavy finishers, this is where the style mixing comes in. The first set of heavy finishers are modern, using the lower right gut punch into the flying right overhead. Then the second, third, and fourth heavy finisher sets are all classic heavy finishers, with the second set being the right mid hook into knee, the third set being the classic Yakuza 3 uppercut into hammer fist, and the fourth being the spin kick into flying flip kick. Maybe I'll create a graphic to label which combo is which, but in total, the first three light attacks are modern, the fourth is classic, and the fifth is brand new. The first heavy finisher set is modern as well, the second, third, and fourth are classic, and then the fifth set is brand new. I'm sorry if that was a lot to understand. This would have been a pain in the ass to talk about without that mod. So again, massive thank you to Hidden Pop 1023 for making this mod. I recommend checking it out, and I've linked it below. With that said, I'd be lying if I said it's simple from here, because I actually want to note something that people tend to gloss over, being the turnaround combos, or whatever the hell they're actually called in game. Back combos or reversal combos, whatever. The thing where you turn around mid combo, or more specifically, when you do turnaround heavy finishers. It looks like in this game, all of your turnaround heavy finishers are the modern versions, meaning that in a very roundabout way, we now have the heavy finishers from modern and classic in one style. I don't really want to analyze these too much, barely anyone talks about these moves in the first place, but I thought it was a cute little concept. For other options, you have the running heavy, which is the classic drop kick, which can transition into a backflip, and the running charge heavy is the one from Gaiden where you stomp on the ground. Evade strikes are interesting though, and I'm not sure how to feel about them. We get the return of the classic style shoulder charge, the side uppercuts, and finally the useless kick that never does anything. As always, the uppercuts are bound to your sideways evade strikes, but for some dumb reason, the forward evade strike is now the kick where you go backwards, and the backward evade strike is now the shoulder charge forward. To explain it clearly, the evade strikes used to be an attack matching the direction you dodge. So the shoulder charge was great for doing a combo on a weaker enemy and trapping them with a quick rush down. Now with this odd change, the evade strikes are meant to act as a dodge followed by a counterattack. But this change seriously breaks so many conventions, hurts juggle combos, and most importantly, just feels weird. I can't emphasize how weird it is actually using these evade strikes in the Gaiden mod. So until we get a demo, I'd recommend trying the mod for yourself to understand how bad it feels. Moving on to new moves, we can see that Dragon Style has incorporated the Agent Style Extreme Heat combo, and I for one am a big fan. These moves are actually Taido moves, Taido being largely based in traditional Okinawan karate. So if you were wondering, that's why these Agent Style moves were added into the Dragon Style, because this game is in Okinawa. Also, fun fact, Reina Mishima in Tekken 8 also uses a ton of Taido-based techniques, and her motion capture was recorded with the assistance of 4-time Taido World Champion Tetsuji Nakano. Bro, look at the way this guy moves, holy shit. Anyway, back to Yakuza. We also got the classic finishing holds back, which is awesome, except once again they're locked to this game's version of Extreme Heat, now named Dragon Boost. Once again though, I'm not sure that I like this game's take. You may notice that in clips of finishing holds, for example, this spinning throw out of the uppercut, there's no uppercut. Or how about this over-the-shoulder throw one? Kiryu, again, doesn't do a heavy attack. The new finishing holds are activated out of the light attack rush combo, which is again confusing, but also looks super ugly. In that first example, the enemy's meant to get uppercutted into the air and then snatched. But without that heavy attack, the enemy just kind of floats up and magnetizes to Kiryu. Even weirder though is that there is a finishing hold for the 5th heavy finisher set, and for some reason, specifically this one activated out of the heavy attack. Maybe there's something I'm not getting here, but let me know what you think of this, or if you have any other information that I'm somehow missing. Now, I think one major thing that feels second nature to some, but is actually a major change, is what may just be the reintroduction of back combos, or as everyone loves to call them, backshots. In a lot of the clips, you can see Kiryu attacking enemies from behind with a more significant hit stun effect, allowing you to land combos from behind much more consistently. This, on top of juggling, will allow us to just totally embarrass certain enemies with the most disrespectful combos imaginable. As for other minor Dragon style tweaks, you can see in a few clips that a running kick on a downed enemy has this explosive wind impact, probably just a general aesthetic choice and not some special move, but more interesting is the throw used just prior. It also has a massive explosive wind blast. This is actually something that Yakuza 3 had as a feature with the increased throw power upgrade. In Yakuza 3, if you throw enemies without this upgrade, there's no special effect, but after purchasing the upgrade, all thrown enemies have a cute little blast impact on the ground, which is an easy change to miss if you're not paying attention. I'm not saying this blast effect is definitely tied to an upgrade, but at the very least, this could just be a nod to the way throws looked in OG Yakuza 3. Finally, and I swear this is the last big thing for Dragon Style, you can now pick up enemies again, just like the classic moveset allowed, but now it's a brand new grab style, grabbing enemies by the collar and raising them up. And as a side note, Mine can do this too. Whether the old grabs exist still, I'm not sure, but this new one definitely does, so that's worth something. There's plenty of other changes made to Dragon Style, like the new double heavy combo reusing one of the triple finishers from Gaiden, or making the charged light attacks now end as a launcher, but now I want to quickly go over the new fighting style, Ryukyu Style. Ryukyu Style is a weapon-based fighting style rooted in Okinawan Kobudo that uses 8 different weapons, with the default being a spear and shield combo of, and I'm gonna fuck up the pronunciation, I'm so sorry, Tinbei Rochin, plus Tonfa and Tekko being for heavy and grab button presses. Then for the held versions, you have Nunchaku, Eiku, and Surujin. I can't tell you how each of them function since I haven't played with them, but this was a picture taken at Tokyo Game Show listing all the weapons, and although there are only 6 of them in this picture, I think the last 2 are Sai and Kama, since those are mentioned in one of the promotional images. As for the weapons themselves, the Tinbei Rochin acts as your simple rush combo, and also has the ability to perform a perfect deflect, very similar to Sea Dog style in Pirate Yakuza. And on that note, they also share the ability to guard attacks from any direction. The attacks with Tekko and Tonfa seem very good for guard breaking. The Nunchaku, Eiku, and Surujin have wide sweeping attack animations, probably good for crowds. And the Sai and Kama seem to maybe, and I mean maybe, act as combo finishers. Over the past few weeks, we've gotten some tweets from RGG, one revealing more info about how the Ryukyu style functions. This style can be mastered through training at the Miyazata Dojo. You train under Miya-san, some bum-ass Yonashiro wannabe. It looks like there's also a list of training sessions you can do to master each weapon, and these also reveal certain weapon effects, like how Sai can cause bleed or Tonfa can cause stun. One of the training sessions listed is actually a dragon style lesson that directly mentions backshot combos. So maybe we'll get moves for both styles, or just general combat tips. Either way, you're graded on your score, and your points contribute to an overall training rank. What that rank does, I don't know. Also, from what I can tell, Miyazato's dojo will encapsulate this game's completion list. We'll have to wait until we get a playable demo to really understand it, but as of right now, there's not much to see, and I am not smart enough to figure out the entire fighting style off of footage alone. But also, what about this game's upgrade system? In that one promotional image I showed, we can see that the upgrade system uses a mixture of money and this game's skill points. This is the same system as Gaiden, but one thing different from Gaiden is that when you defeat enemies, they drop physical money everywhere. This is of course taken straight out of Pirate Yakuza, but I really like this direction. It reminds me of Yakuza 0's gigantic money clouds you could make, and I think even funnier is the fact that this also happens in Dark Ties for Mine's combat, even though he's like a multi-millionaire. Anyway, we can see that the stats are separated to the left, where you can upgrade your health bar and attack power, as is the case with all recent games. For the upgrade tree itself, there seems to be more of a long upgrade path with a mix of upgrades for each style, at least I think from the icons, and it looks like you start at the top of the skill tree going downwards. As for what abilities are where, this ability on screen has the Kiwami icon, so it's easy to assume that's for heat actions. Then the dragon and the weapon icons are definitely tied to the individual styles. One unfortunate thing with this screenshot being at the end of the skill tree is that it's pretty much guaranteed this game will only have one heat bar with no ability to upgrade it. Hey, it's Future Weaver again. Right here I actually go into a rant about there only being one heat bar and how that's bad, but don't worry because we've gotten new footage showing we in fact get a second heat bar for both characters. Whoa, revolutionary, oh my god! And speaking of heat actions, I'm sure you've noticed the newer style they've tried for this game with seamless transitions. In theory, it might sound cool, but I, as someone who tries to be less negative, think they totally suck. The classic heat actions with the camera cuts weren't just to make asset loading easier, but it also served to make the attacks interesting visually. You get wide shots, close-up shots, panning shots, zooming shots. But now, when you do heat actions, it's just one smooth camera motion showing everything with no flair. No inspired direction, no emphasis on where you're supposed to be looking. They're just bland. Plus, with the seamless transition of the camera, the game still makes all the enemies around you just stand there frozen in place. Or in most cases, they just get deleted on screen. And that problem never existed with the cinematic style, because the purpose of the camera cuts was to hide these things. Another side effect of this is all of the moves are essentially at normal speed, whereas before, your heat actions have speed ramping to give immediate impact to strong moves and letting you watch the smaller details happen, like blood and heat particles flying everywhere. I also have to note that the old style heat actions do still exist, like this bike heat action, as well as even some new heat actions like the Ryukyu style shield throw one from the trailer. But it seems very odd to, in essence, make some of the newer heat actions look worse for no reason. Finally, there's one last combat note for this game, and it actually ties into the flip phones. In this game, you have the ability to customize your phone with stickers, bedazzling, and even change your ringtone. But more importantly, you can add a custom antenna, straps, and a lock screen, all of which seem to be this game's take on gear. For example, you can see the charismatic photo has been turned into a lock screen, and its effects are applied here. For straps, we have stuff like gear sets living on with the sushi strap set giving you stun immunity for having all 3 equipped. And there's most likely way more custom parts than this. As goofy as this system is, it's literally perfect for everything that Yakuza 3 has come to represent for some, and it's a time capsule of that specific moment in the late 2000s, and this corny phone customization fits in so well. And speaking of phones, the new La 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 phone system seems like the new Aloha Link's replacement and looks to work in the same manner. Plus, for the La 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 mobile system, you can scan boxes around town for rewards, but these look like some real low-tier loot at best. Lastly, for Kiwami 3, let's quickly go over some sub-stories, but also the rest of the side content, namely Morning Glory, Legendary Baddie, and the return of the Honest Living Association. In the new design of Morning Glory, we can access the backyard to find a vegetable garden on top of cows and chickens, and by the way, that cow enclosure is so tiny, Kiryu is going to hell. We also get gameplay of a cooking minigame, no doubt directly built off of the Goro Goro kitchen system. In fact, in recent footage, one of the cooking minigames is the Scum Skimmer, literally straight from Pirate Yakuza, plus the menus are kinda identical as well. We also saw clips of what looks like a bug catching minigame versus the kids, and I forgot to mention it, but in Ryukyu you can catch bugs with a net. What could they possibly use bugs for in this game? I hope it's not fucking cooking. Then for fishing, we got a look at a small fishing screen that looks kinda similar to the way it did in Dundoko Islands fishing, but still very different looking from anything prior, so I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays, especially considering how important fishing is to the identity of Yakuza 3. Also at Morning Glory, and I'm super happy with this one, you can swim in the water and grab fish, which if you watched my Kiwami 3 video, you'd know this is exactly what I predicted. Now please just call me Yama and Mac, please. Other activities include helping the kids with their homework, a new sewing minigame, and something called Dragon Reversi. Another major addition to Morning Glory is the general store. At the orphanage, you have a bulletin board for keeping track of goods you can sell like your veggies, you can purchase goods like fertilizer, and you can receive requests from your many neighbors and look at your relationship with them, their bonding rewards, and their personality traits. This entire system is used to raise funds for the betterment of Morning Glory, meaning Kiryu can finally act as the director of the orphanage instead of stuffing around the house all day like before. As for the kids themselves, each kid has their own heart gauge, which is probably their bond meter. I find this cute because it reminds me of Haruka's trust meter from Yakuza 3, and again, is something I directly asked for in my Kiwami 3 video. But on top of that, RGG also mentioned there being sub-stories for each of the kids. Finally, the best part of life at Morning Glory is the overarching level system, called your Daddy rank. Back to the city for a second, there were a few sub-stories available in the demo, most notable of which being the new take on the ice cream sub-story. In the original version, you find a father on the street and help carry ice cream to his wife and 2 kids in front of the M store in the southeast corner. In this version, or at least in the demo, it's been rewritten to now be a single mother asking Kiryu to bring the ice cream to her 2 kids now at the Popo store at the top of the map. That's not all, because now this sub-story has way more obstacles, including sumo wrestlers dancing in circles, wrestlers shuffling side to side, pedestrians looking at their phones, and of course, cars along the main road. Once you get the ice cream to the kids, there's the whole emotional conclusion about only wanting to enjoy it with their mother. Then Kiryu carries the mother straddled over his back. Okay, yes, we're all thinking it. And then the sub-story ends with them asking Kiryu to be their dad. I do like this take on the sub-story, especially the over-the-top and silly obstacles, because I do think the original version was definitely too simple. We also got some more sub-stories, like the one for the street surfer guy, the one where they shoehorn in some random-ass Japanese celebrity named Ako-san, and a new version of the sub-story with the girl who wants to go to Tokyo. The city doesn't just have sub-stories though, because waiting around town are strong enemies marked with a shattered Tojo emblem icon, known as the Reapers. Yes, that's correct. Kiwami 3 has actually, to my own surprise, brought back the Honest Living Association and the Hitman missions, although with a new twist. Before, these missions were a load of fun fights, but interaction with the HLA was a pain. In Kiwami 3, everything is ultra simplified and plays almost identical to the bounty system from Pirate Yakuza, where you have enemies pre-marked on your map that you can hunt down for monetary rewards. And I'm praying that this mode has the same rough outline and conclusion that it does in the original. No spoilers, but I do think the Reapers were an interesting group of enemies, and this will probably be half my fun in this game, even though there's only 35 of them according to the promotional image. And I do have to talk about the legendary baddie mode, but I'll make it quick because we've all seen this exact mode 50 times before. Judging from the UI, it looks heavily built off of the pirate crews from Pirate Yakuza. You have massive crew fights, crew customization, and even fights where you can use your bike. You work to raise your infamy rank and upgrade your crew in many ways, including your bike, team flag, team uniform, and rally. And of course, you can customize the uniforms for your entire crew. This mode can actually be broken down into 3 different types of fights. The first is the giant crew battles I mentioned before, but the other style involves your gang riding in on bikes and assaulting another gang's territory from the looks of it. You slowly work your way up a map, split into lanes, and take out enemy checkpoints using basic combat, but also this mode's many weapons and random tools. Chickens, vehicles, rocket launchers, nothing is off limits, I guess. The third type of fight is actually across the city, where your gal gang will join you in skirmishes with other biker gangs for a simple street fight. I also personally think it's awesome how with the recent games, RGG hasn't shied away from having women combatants. Obviously, if Kiryu was put into a scenario against a woman, his little brain would implode, but I love the massive crew battles essentially just being a massive gang of girls and Kiryu. But we've finally made it through everything in Kiwami 3. Let's now talk about the new game releasing as Kiwami 3's counterpart, Dark Ties. Dark Ties is a brand new Gaiden game telling the story of Yoshitaka Mine's rise through the ranks of the Tojo clan. The demo begins with Mine getting info on the Tojo clan from a private investigator, and once again, this scene is 100% not the final version. After leaving Cafe Alps, you have your first encounter with random tutorial enemies, before defeating them and taking a taxi to the prison release of Kanda. Kanda beats up and robs the Nishiyama family dudes sent to greet him, and Mine continues tailing Kanda all the way to Kamurocho, where we see Kanda enter a soap land with the weirdest waddle animation I've ever seen. If this doesn't make it into the final game, I'm ending it all. At this point, Mine has another encounter with a group of hooligans, and after beating them, Kanda exits the club, leading him to then start perving on some random girl he passes. Things escalate, Kanda gets real creepy and aggressive, Mine intervenes to stop Kanda, and a fight ensues. After being defeated, Kanda throws a fucking vending machine at Mine, and to resolve the matter, Mine pays Kanda to leave the girl alone. But that is where the demo story ends. Not really much I can say since there's nothing old to compare from. I never actually read the RGG Online story this is based on, so with that said, let's get into the meat and potatoes. Mine's fighting style is one named shootboxing, a combat sport that's a mixture of hard-hitting kicks and punches from kickboxing, but also grapples and grabs from the shoot wrestling aspect. Now, for Mine's moveset, and this is pure speculation compared to Kiryu because this is all brand new, pressing square is of course your rush combo. And while I could explain every single rush combo in this video, I don't want to. A running light attack is this punch, and a charged light attack is this spinning backhand taken straight from Mine's moveset in Yakuza 3. Heavy is this spinning kick, charged heavy is this busted knee attack, and a running heavy is this flying knee, at least I think. For grab, pressing, it's a grab. It also looks like this grab has an auto throw, and you can't actually hold enemies in your grab like Kiryu. You'll flip the enemies over your body and smash their head in. For a running grab, you have a full body tackle where you jump on top of them and do basically the same thing. Mine also gets access to a new feature referred to as aerial attacks, but I'm just gonna call them footstools because that's way too vague. You activate the footstool attack by holding the grab button, and then do 3 different attacks depending on your next input. Light attack is a flying punch, heavy attack is a flying kick, and the grab button sends you out in a flying tackle. One other footstool move you can do is a heat action, and this is Yagami's wall jump heat action from Tiger Style getting a new lease on life. In fact, it's so stolen that you can see in the animation when it ends, Mine automatically enters the tiger stance, then just snaps back to his regular stance. On top of that, one other thing kinda stolen from Yagami is when landing a perfect guard, you can deflect attacks, just like Yagami's Boxer and Tiger Styles. Yeah, they're never making another Judgment game. The borrowed features don't just stop at Yagami though, because Mine also now has Majima's bullet spider senses from Pirate Yakuza, as in the little alert sound effect warning you to dodge, plus the giant red icon. By the way, Kiryu also gets this ability, I just didn't mention it because I forgot. On top of that, Mine's dodging seems to also take a lot from Majima's super fast style, with his dodge causing a slow-mo effect, probably when you get perfect timing. One thing definitely unique to Mine, however, is his edgelord mode, Dark Awakening. You have a meter of 3 hearts you can fill, and when activating Dark Awakening, you can hold down the button longer to use up even more hearts as a trade-off for higher power. In this mode, your attacks change to become more wild, feral, and generally more powerful, as well as giving you a ton of new violent moves, like the one where Mine drags an enemy by their face along the ground. And as for map changes in Kamurocho, there's basically none, but a massive change due to the year this game takes place is that we get the one and only Don Quixote back, baby! And of course, one more thing finally returning is the bowling alley, which has been absent from the games since Yakuza Kiwami, a decade ago. And speaking of side content, Mine has no shortage of it, with simple stuff like darts, karaoke, and the batting center, but also brand new stuff like Kanda damage control. This is most likely this game's variant of the Akame network and rewards you with money as well as these star points. One thing this made me think of though is, how will this game explain Mine needing to raise money? Because he's incredibly rich. Wouldn't the rewards listed here be like chump change to him? Just a funny thought. But one more thing I need to note is how good the UI for this menu is. And to cap this out and kind of mirror Kiryu in a way, Kanda damage control will act as Mine's completion list. And the last side mode that we saw announced was Mine's Coliseum variant, Hell's Arena. This mode probably operates like every other Coliseum mode we've had, but we got a mention of a new survival mode, Survival Hell, where you have to use weapons and items to defeat random enemies for rewards. I will be honest, this mode either has the potential to be super boring or the best thing I talk about in this video. Simply put, Survival Hell is a roguelite. You enter a round with the goal of reaching a final boss. Along the way, you have to make your way through rooms of enemies while racking up cash, and defeat mini-bosses to ring the gongs of progress. It's recommended you do everything in your power to buff Mine, because if you go into the final fight unprepared, you will get washed. Throughout the dungeons, you can find chests guarded by treasure keepers. Some of the loot you can find includes blessing books, which are basically just buffs, but you can also find weapons. Weapons are unique here, and you can have up to 4 equipped with the D-pad. Every weapon has a skill cost to use them, and when activated, they perform a special attack that will likely kill any weak enemy. You can also hire mercenaries to act as teammates in battle. Once you think you have sufficient strength, you can take on the final boss. Whenever you decide to go back in, you can equip weapons and hire mercenaries before you enter at a cost. So you start off stronger than before, giving a grander progression system. And if this properly scales, we could have a banger on our hands. This sounds simple, but I'm a sucker for roguelites, and I'm praying that this mode is good. Or if it isn't, that they at least experiment like this more often. Survival Hell also seems to take a lot of assets from the turn-based game's dungeons, so expect strong Like a Dragon vibes. And with that, we've gone over everything notable. The rest of what I have written down is a bunch of random stuff, so I'm just gonna list it off starting now. Kiwami 3 and Dark Ties have a playable Game Gear with many classics, such as Sonic and Tails, Pac-Man, Sonic Drift, and Streets of Rage, baby! Look at that! They made a game based off Streets of Kamurocho. As for arcade games, there's now Slash Out, Motor Raid, Magical Truck Adventure, and Emergency Call Ambulance, potentially the funniest game ever made. The biker game mode features Gondawara, Yuki, and the Obitarian as crew characters, with Ichiban as a DLC, because that's all he is at this point, a DLC character. Holy shit, give us more Ichiban games. The music player makes a return, and on the topic of music, Kiryu has a brand new karaoke song where he sings on a flower in the music video. And Mine can sing Baka Mitai, and his photograph in the music video is him and Kanda. At the end of fights, Mine wipes his hands clean with a cloth. Mine also can change his outfit between a few styles in the Nishikiyama Family HQ, although it's less customizable than the boutique. And the biggest thing deciding many purchases, or lack thereof, Teruyuki Kagawa, known sex criminal, is still in the game as Hamazaki. I'm not doing the whole yap sesh about this guy again. You can watch this vid if you're not aware of the details, but his inclusion is a negative regardless. And as of finishing up this video, one more piece of bad news has come out. RGG has very quietly admitted that upon the release of Yakuza Kiwami 3, Yakuza 3 Remastered will no longer be available for purchase unless you purchase the over $100 full series collection. I hope it's obvious this is a bad thing, and clearly Sega haven't learned their lesson from the recent 20th anniversary mess. But I'm too tired to rant after a video this long, and that is everything. Thanks for sticking to the end. This is sort of a sequel to another video I made for Yakuza 0 Director's Cut. That video is actually kind of what put me on the map, so it's nice to almost get back to basics on this one. If there's anything for these games that I missed in this video, let me know below. And if you have any questions, comments, or theories, then be sure to speak your mind. And thank you for watching to the end. Bye!